I gotta say, as a doctor, it's fascinating to see how critical theory operates like a virus, which is exactly what the proponents of critical theory have said they're trying to achieve in a paper. You got a university professor, and she's saying that she wants to indoctrinate students to go around in different spaces and criticize those spaces with the purpose for their criticism to destabilize said spaces and make them unable to function. And the way a virus works is pretty similar. I mean, it infects a cell, and it's got like this way of entering the cell, which is the same how critical theory enters a space, usually by having like a little bit of truth, a little grain of truth. And once it enters the space, once the critics get to be in positions of power, then the space stops doing what it was initially doing and is just pushing out critical theory. It's very similar to how a virus, once infecting a cell, that cell stops doing what it's supposed to do and just replicates the virus. And like, here's a perfect example. You get Lord of the Rings, and this is from the Tolkien Society. I mean, you'd expect that they would analyze Tolkien's works and they would just and they would just talk on them, right? Like they would focus on Lord of the Rings, but just look at this panel, okay? Gondor in transition, a brief introduction to transgender realities in Lord of the Rings. I mean, I watched Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's something at this point that's a cultural phenomenon all around the world. There's probably some forgotten tribes in the Amazon using clicky languages, and they're discussing Lord of the Rings. I have never heard anyone talk about transgenderism in Lord of the Rings. The only way you can get to that point if you have ideologues completely infesting the community to the point where they get a panel. But that's not it. It's like the problem of pain portraying physical disability in the fantasy of J.R.R. Tolkien. The Burned Hand teaches most about fire, applying traumatic stress and ecological frameworks to narrative of displacement and resettlement across cultures in Tolkien Middle-earth. Like, you get to notice the trend of the Baizu. You get to notice, like, the type of people that only care, like, only, that's it. The only thing they care about is racial injustices, LGBT activism, and environmentalism. And everything they see is that. But they're not happy with that. Like, that's what you need to see everywhere you look. Like, in every hobby you turn to, whether it is football, whether it is movies, whether it is comic books, whether it is video games, all you need to see is critical theory. You get to see your hobby that's dead and is now carried around like a husk by critical theory. Like, you're going to be lectured about trans issues, whether you watch football, whether you watch a movie to relax, whether it's entertainment. It's suffocating, really. Like, there's no escaping it. It's cultural fascism, I would say. You know, like, the idea of fascism is that nothing outside the state, everything within the state, nothing against the state, is literally the same. It's like nothing against the culture, everything within the culture, nothing against the culture. And it keeps going. The Invisible Other, Tolkien's Dwarf Women and the Feminine Lack. Project Indian Myth, Culture and History onto Tolkien's Worlds. Maybe like this is the only one that's not critical theory, like out of the entire panel. Like, who on earth goes and visits these is my question. Like, who wants to go and instead of talking about Lord of the Rings, instead of, talking about what do you think the elves are doing in their land, like, how do you think that looks like? What do you think Sauron did after getting defeated? Like, where does he go? Instead of talking about those things, you're just talking about transgender and environmentalism and shit. It's like, if you want to talk about environmentalists, go listen to Greta Thunberg have a speech about environmentalism. Why do you need to do like this middle thing where you go to a Lord of the Rings convention in order to completely modify that space, in order to completely subvert the space to your will? The loss of indigeneity, identity, and anti-racism. Again, we're talking about Lord of the fucking Rings, okay? The problematic parameters of Elrond Half-Elven and Ronald English Catholic. Hearkening, problematic means heretical, by the way. Hearkening to the other, Athrobet, Finroth, and Anderneth. Pardoning Saruman. The queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. What? Okay, pardoning Saruman would actually be a very interesting conversation, because he believed that by not fighting, by being on the peaceful approach, like just surrendering, the people of Middle-earth would be cut a better deal. So there is a conversation to be had there. Like, certainly you can have debates on both sides. But they're not trying to pardon Saruman because of that. Apparently Saruman was a raging homosexual. Like, he liked to take it up the ass, and because of that we should pardon him, I guess. I mean, if his sexual preferences were different, then he would have been a piece of shit. But no, because he likes to suck cock, then Desire of the Ring, an Indian academic's adventure in her quest for the perilous realm. Queer atheists, agnostics, and animists. Can you? Oh my, indeed. You know, like, there is an alternative universe. I guarantee you. There is an alternative universe where Christianity reigns supreme. And Christianity criticizes every single work of literature because everything is God related. Okay, like just how everything is political, in that alternate universe, everything is God related. So you can't just have sports. You can't just have Lord of the Rings. You can't just have comic books. No, everything needs to be taken over by the clergy, and there are priests within the Lord of the Rings fandom that only lecture about Christianity. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, maybe this is how you can reach to leftists and explain to them why they are doing is wrong, why it's literally turning people away. Like, certain people might actually want to become left-leaning, but like, this is sickening. Everywhere you go, literally everywhere you go, you get these topics. I don't care how good these topics are, okay? Like, even if you were to talk about ending world poverty or having peace on earth, but you would infest that message in every single avenue, in every single hobby, people would start turning away from it. Too much of a good thing is what they say. You know, like, salt in food is excellent, but like, if you put too much salt, people stop eating. This is what these people don't understand. Like, you get these chuckleheads that manage to get into positions of power, and then all they do is nepotism. They just promote each other. They suppress all opposition. You're not going to hear like a right-wing take about Lord of the Rings here. And by the way, I wouldn't even want to hear it. It's like, fuck off. Let me just talk about my fantasy. All right, politics over. I just want to relax. I just want to talk about. Look at this: iconographies of alterity in the Soviet bloc. Illustrations for the Lord of the. My fucking god! But I gotta say, like, this is at least the closest you can get to actually talking about Lord of the Rings at this convention, because it's like, okay, how did people in the Soviet Union react to Lord of the Rings? That might actually be an interesting thing. I still wouldn't want to hear it, by the way. Then you get 30 minutes of peacetime, and then it's questioning the cast in the Lord of the Rings, and it's multiple Chinese translations. Stars Less Strange, an analysis on fan fiction and representation within the Tolkien fan community. Something Mighty Queer, destabilizing cis hetero amato. I can't even pronounce this shit. It's too scientific for me. I'm sorry. I need to go to a university in order to understand Dana Peterson's lecture. Fuck me. Translations as a means of representation and diversity in Tolkien. Oh yeah, like, this is when they advocate, like, if the art itself can't be touched. So you get an anime, or you get an old book that its author passed away. So you can't really touch the source material. Then fuck with the translation, okay? Then make shit up. Like, translate it the proper way. Yeah, these are the individuals, by the way. It's gross. It's gross, like they used to say. Gross. Do you know what this remembers? Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Gail Simone, who back in 2014, I believe, was like, sorry, we accidentally took over comics, everyone. Not actual sorry. And they were like spiting the fans. By the way, spiting the fans is the number one way you can lose customers. Like, 60% of customers that leave a business is because the business pissed off the fans. So most people can leave a business because, I don't know, they're getting old and they don't need that business anymore. You know, like, old people don't go clubbing. So that's one of the way a club can lose customers. Maybe they find a better product. Maybe the opposition advertises better. But like, what is the track one number one reason? Market shows, experts claim, studies discuss that 60% of customers will leave if you piss them off. And this is exactly what this picture is doing, like, spotting the consumer, spotting potential people. They're not spotting your mother, right? Because your mother isn't on Twitter following Gail Simone. No, it's like potential customers. And what is the result? Top 20, literally top 20 comics in the United States are all manga. In order for them to even like manage to go to the top, they will say it's like, let's look at the top comic books with superheroes in the United States. And first you're going to see like My Hero Academia. And underneath that, if you scroll way down and you go through other like Japanese comics, you eventually get to see Batman. So they really had to change like the way they would frame the title. And if you look at Batman, it's actually good. Like they're not trying to pander, they're not pushing for identity politics or anything. It's like Batman fighting against the Batman who laughs, which is really amazing. Like it's a very good character. But like that, they ruined it. They freaking ruined it. It's insane, you know, because they're not passionate about it. Like for them, it's a cash grab. Like I'm pretty sure all those speakers at the Lord of the Ring conventions get to make nice money. And that's it. You know, like that. It's a virus. It really is a virus. Like they're infecting the hobbies. They're just taking all the resources and turning the cell into something else. The cell isn't doing its job anymore. It's now just producing theory, like more theory garbage until the cell eventually dies and the virus moves on to other cells. It's one of the most destructive ideologies that I have seen in history. You know, a peaceful one, by the way. Okay, like most peacefully destructive ideology, because there's no conflict, unless you count like people getting fired and not able to put food on the table to be violence, but they probably don't. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.